Now, you are one of many generations of rhododendron ophiles.
Yes.
How did it all start in your family?
It all started with my great-grandfather was a famous pre-Raphaelite painter, Sir John Everett Millais, and his son, J.G. Millais, known as Johnny, was a very keen wildlife person, and he mapped half of Newfoundland. He went up the Nile. He went all over the place. And as he got older, he retired to his garden in Sussex and developed his wonderful rhododendron garden, and became really interested in rhododendrons. And this is something that when he got into a subject, he just really got into everything, and he wrote all about rhododendrons. This is just one of 2 volumes of books on rhododendrons that he wrote in 1917 and 1924. And really, that was one of the first books on rhododendrons.
Why do you think he went for the rhododendrons?
They were at that stage. Rhododendrons were newly coming into the country. Interesting plants were coming back from the Himalayas, and the landed gentry at that time were breeding them and making lots of new hybrids. And it was obviously a very exciting time, which at that point hadn't been catalogued. And so there's a lot of information in there. He described a lot of rhododendrons for the first time, and those descriptions are still well regarded because they were done so well. Obviously names have changed and botanists have got to work and changed names, but the basic botany and descriptions is still first class.
Fantastic, really. So how did you come into it? When and how?
Yes, my great-uncle Johnny died in 1931, so obviously I never met him. And in fact, my father hardly ever met him either. But it was his wife, Aunt Fan, who carried on that garden till the early 60s. Was very keen on her rhododendrons, and she instilled that love of rhododendrons into my father, who started his first nursery just before the Second World War, in fact. But then he had a rhododendron hobby all his life and started a rhododendron nursery in 1970. But yes, that love of rhododendrons has come on down effectively to 3 generations now.
Yes, I can see that. So, now you are the chairman of the rhododendron group of the RHS. And
Rhododendron Camellia.
We now we now incorporate Camellias and Magnolias. The group was supposedly started in 1915.
The society,
100 years ago.
The society was started in 1915.
How did that start? Do you know?
That was started by my great uncle J.G. Millais meeting with 3 other people and forming the Rhododendron Society in 1915. And they had their first AGM at Chelsea Flower Show in 1916. So it was a very small number of members when it was first started, and it's obviously grown now to, and over the course of the 100 years, we're now up to 700 members, or whatever it is now. So, yeah.
Yes, good. And how do you see the next 100 years going, do you think?
I think rhododendrons are due for a renaissance. There's still a real place for core woody plant, shrub planting in gardens, however small the garden are. I think we're due for a revival to get some structural planting in. So that's interesting with new customers, new gardeners coming on front. And also, I think there's a real interest in conservation and developing old gardens as well. I mean, some of the older hybrids, the names are being lost. There's scope to get some of these old varieties back into production and preserved for the future.
So conservation as well, yes. Now, we were talking with Roy about how conifers had gone into a decline in the 70s. They were all the rage, and then they sort of lost fashion. And then they have now started to come back into fashion again. Now, rhododendrons, I think, have also somewhat fallen out of fashion. But do you think there is a revival now? Do you see anything like a revival?
I feel there's a good chance of a revival for rhododendrons. Currently we're being tarred by the rhododendron ponticum issue. What we need to get across is that this is just one problem species planted in the wrong place. 600 species of rhododendrons. There's hundreds of thousands of named cultivars, hybrids. These aren't problem plants. It's a ponticum in the wrong place. And that's very much along the lines of mint escaping from a pot in the garden. You've just got to look after these plants, and we need to make sure that ponticum is controlled, and that all these interesting garden-worthy plants are not tarred with the image of rhododendron ponticum charging across Welsh hillsides.
Right, well, thank you.
Okay.